So just to start off, we can go right down the line. I'd love if everyone could introduce themselves, how you became a casting director, and how short films may have taken a part in your journey into casting. We'll start.
Yeah, hello. Hi, I'm Charlotte Arnoux. I cast for film, and short film started it all for me. I was actually an acting teacher for young professional actors in New York City for many years until I knew every acting kid in the city. And then a friend of mine who was making a short film actually approached me and said, do you want to cast this with your students? Out of your pool of students, we could cast it. And I said, yes, I've never done anything like that before, but sure. And so I gathered hundreds of students of mine through an audition, and then that short film went on to Sundance, and that started everything. You know, where there's not really a job board for casting directors, it's mostly word of mouth and festivals, and especially for independent casting directors and who work in the indie space. And so yeah, that short film still to this day, even though it was 10 years ago, gets me jobs. People reference that one short film that started it all. And I will say the two lead actors from that short have also gone on to have fantastic careers, and it was their first professional experience on set.
Oh, fantastic. Joanna.
Oh gosh, how do I follow that? I'm Joanna Davis, very happy to be here. I started when I was a child, kind of. I had always wanted to be in the film industry, and I had just put the word out there, and someone knew someone who knew someone who was a casting director, and I asked if I could just be an intern that summer, you know, after junior year of high school, and I absolutely fell in love with it. And you know, I've done other things along the way, but I kept going back and saying, wait, that was really fun. And so that's how I began. And short films, I just really find fascinating. I really just get excited about how you just have a few minutes to tell an entire story. And it really is hard. And so I like that challenge because I like a challenge, really. But I really love how love under 5-line roles or something like that, where you really just have a little bit of time to make an entire character and make an entire story and, you know, see it to fruition. So that's me in a nutshell. Thanks.
Thank you. Kimberly.
Can you repeat the question again?
Yeah, of course. How did
Short
you
film and how I started?
Yeah, how
Okay,
you started
sorry.
in casting and
So I started in casting not by choice, meaning it wasn't something that I aspired to do. I actually came from the music world. I came from opera. So I had taken a break from there. My friend, who's an actress, was like, you should do casting, because waiting tables just wasn't fulfilling my soul. And I had an opportunity to intern with Judy Henderson, and kind of got fast-tracked really quickly. 2 weeks after my internship, she offered me her associate position, so I just went running and figured it out along the way. So I'm a big believer in fake it till you make it. But I did some in the early part of my career, I did some short film castings, and one of them I heard was used as an example at NYU, which I was like, oh my God. So I love, like, kind of what Joanna was saying, the challenge of a short film. Like, you have often a very, very small budget, and you've got to just get the best quality that you can, and you've got to concise the writing in such a way that you can keep people in it and tell that story. And so, I mean, I'm such a supporter. I know it's the way a lot of young filmmakers start, and I'm really supportive of, like, Columbia and NYU communities, and these are great ways for us, I think, to forge future relationships. And even when I would do the work, sometimes for free, and people would say, like, why do you keep doing, you know, that? And I'd say, that could be the next Quentin Tarantino, man, you don't know. Like, you build relationships, and I think it's just a great way to get to develop those with young and upcoming filmmakers. So that's the kind of thing I think excites all of us, so yeah.
fantastic. Adrienne.
Hi, I'm Adrienne Stern. Nice to see everybody in the audience today. So I come from the corporate 500 world. I was really immersed in that here in New York, and just a change of lifestyle brought me down to North Carolina, where I went right back into the corporate 500 world, and I just kind of lost interest in it, got a job on a film set, was enamored with the person's life and career who did the extras casting in under fives, and thought, oh, this would be something I would enjoy. Came back to New York, got an internship just like Kimberly at an office, and within a month they said, can we speak with you? And they said, do you want to work here? And that was it. So I kind of saw my opportunity, and back then when I started in casting, there were no computers. It was typewriters and facsimiles and delivering scripts. And I mean, I'm going to say things like bells are ringing and, you know, all these things that if you've been in the industry a long time, you know what we're talking about. So I was in the office till 11 o'clock every night, and I would educate myself on every actor. Every agency had a folder. Actors would send in headshots. It was just a lot of just education, and it was fun. That's really how I looked at it. It was a lot of fun. I started off in theater. I landed at Ensemble Studio Theater just when the independent film industry started to bubble over. And I just was at the right place where everybody sort of wanted to make a film, make a short film, make a feature. I got very fortunate that an intern at EST, Ensemble Studio Theater, which is right around the corner, went to work at a film company and told them about me. Got to cast that film, and that film won Sundance, and then it just puts you on the map. For me, what I'm going to say is I look for good material. So I don't mind if it's a short. I don't mind if it's a feature. I just want to dig my, self into something that the actors are going to be excited about. I'm going to be excited about working with the director, the producer. I mean, we've all been doing this a long time. You see the good, the bad, and the ugly. We all have things that worked out great, other projects that didn't. But I think that short films, as I always call them, are calling cards. It's a way to work. It's a way to make new connections. And short films usually go to film festivals or within the university or even SAG. They have their own festivals. And you make new friends. I mean, for me, I always say, sure, chase us, the casting directors, but chase your friends also, because your friends who are fellow actors, writers, directors, filmmakers, they're the ones who are going to recommend you, get you the jobs. And don't wait for us to give you a job. If you have an idea or something, go create and make it yourself, and get it out there in the world and let people know and have your own voice.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty of this conversation, can you tell us the best short films that you've worked on, whether it was your favorite experience through casting or what the final product was? Do you want to start with Joanna? Do you have any?
Sure. So I, last year, I think it was, I did a film called Olive that just the past week or two won the Young Directors Award at in Cannes, and that was thrilling. It's just really was a passion project about Alzheimer's, and it was a beautiful, beautiful story told in maybe like 13 minutes, and so many ups and downs, and really just wonderful. And so that's really exciting that we just got this award, and we don't do it for the awards, obviously, but just to have it recognized, and when I saw it, I knew it was going to be amazing, but when I saw it, I was impressed and excited about it.
Wow. Anybody have a special film that you worked on or cast for shorts?
I cast a short film. I want to call it Patch. I got to say, I've cast so many films, I can't even remember which one is which with the names.
You're going, what the hell?
You're right, that's how I feel. But for whatever reason, Melissa Leo and Debbie Harry are the leads in this film, I remember, so you can look it up on IMDb. And this film had a life like no other short film I've ever seen in my entire career. We literally got into every single festival. It was just, just when you think you're not going to see the film again, the filmmaker got it into another festival, had 1 million screenings. It was just a really beautiful experience because at the end of the day, everybody was really happy with the product and the journey it went on. And I think that that is what's important also, because you, again, what I said earlier, this is your calling card. And so when everybody feels like they completed the journey for the project, then you can move on and feel great about it. And people still talk about that film. So very excited about that.
Wow, that's incredible. Anybody else? Any special films?
I remember one.
Yeah. Yes.
No, I was sitting here thinking, I'm like, I have to mention.
We all have to think of our resumes. It's not easy.
Reminders.
I just like, oh my God. The first one that I ever cast, Dunny, because I think that was like, I was so proud, you know, and it was really challenging because we had to find like a 13-year-old overweight kid who can act, and I was like, great. So it really just sent me on a search, and we just got this amazing kid, and you know, everybody was just so good in it, and it was made for next to nothing, and like it was just thrilling. It just was like everybody wanted to be there, and it wasn't about the money, and it was just about the craft and all that stuff. And it's called Dunny. It's old. Well, I think the kid's probably in his 30s now, honestly. But it's a really cute little short. I don't know, probably YouTube. Everything's on YouTube. So.
We'll find it on YouTube. We'll find it on YouTube. Shart?
Dunny, Dunny.
Yeah, I mean, I want to kind of talk about this first short film, Lockdown, that launched it all for me. But I'm actually working on one right now that I really, really, really love. And I think the story, even of the production, is really interesting because I actually met the filmmakers Gerardo Coelho and Amadine Thomas at this last Sundance. Excuse me, where I had a feature at Sundance, but I had seen their short films, including the one that was at this Sundance. I was like, we have to meet. Like, I want to talk to you. And it's a trilogy, and their first two shorts, like film 1 and film 2 of this trilogy, both went to Sundance. And we're hoping for the same for the third. But they had worked in Mexico City for 1 and 2, so worked with a casting director there. And then this one is actually taking place in the United States, so we've been working on it. And I adore it, and I mean, it's exactly what you said. We could be working with the next Tarantinos. When I met them, I was like, these guys are a big deal, you know, and they're young and they're hungry and they make all their films together. And so far, all they've done are shorts, but we are really in tune with what makes a great film, and our taste is really curated at this point. And it's really exciting when you meet filmmakers that kind of fall in line exactly with the kinds of stories you want to help tell, and yeah, are in line with your taste for actors too.
To follow up, now, do you feel like over time in this role, your tastes you've become a little bit more discerning of scripts or actors? What's that like when you look back at your past work and see your taste evolve? Yeah.
Well, I'm going to answer that because years ago I did a ton of NYU, Columbia, SVA, Purchase, like every school, and I was excited to do all that and work with the students. And a lot of those people move on in their careers. Some keep you with them, some don't. I feel like I've moved on from that, and I want that opportunity for younger casting directors. I've been there, I've done it, and I know what it's like. So when I'm casting a short now, I'm looking for who are these people directing, managing. They want name actors in at least one role, so I need to be able to deliver the goods, and so that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for something that's going to get into the major festivals, because they're going to then go on to hopefully make a feature, because I do agree with what Charlotte said. There are some filmmakers, they're wonderful to work with, but they're stuck in short land, and some of them move on and some don't. But you know, for me, I'm looking for the level of filmmaker that would also be making a feature.
Wow. Anyone else on discerning taste and growing? Yeah.
Yeah, I think just being picky is okay. I've learned throughout the years, I just want to take every project, and I honestly love working, so I really do want to take every project, but it gets to a point where your heart has to be in it at some point. And to take a job just to take a job, it's a different experience. And so I found that I am now reading scripts and saying, wait, do I actually love this script? Do I love the world? Can I find the right actors for this? Is this the right script for me? Or do I know another casting director that would be perfect for this? And really sitting and thinking, am I the right person to be the casting director, or am I not? Or they might really like me and I like them, but the script is just not what I'm looking for at the moment, and I'm just not connecting. And that's okay as an actor or as a casting director. It's okay to say no. And I think that's what I've started to realize, even though we all want to work, but it really is okay to say no.
Fantastic. Are there any misconceptions about the job of a casting director that new filmmakers get wrong, or maybe get right and seasoned filmmakers kind of lose track of? Kimberly?
We have all the power. We don't, guys. I mean, it's a reality. We're here to open a door for you, but you got to walk through it. What else did you ask? I swear to God, it's the heat. It's the heat.
That new filmmakers get wrong or get right?
Oh, yeah. Well, kind of what you were saying. Like, they come in, they have, a limited budget, and they want Tom Cruise. And then you have to sort of guide them, and I think that's probably those of us that have been in it for a couple decades now, we get to sort of help start those careers in a way, but through our guidance, right? And so we also have to check ourselves that if we don't feel we have the passion and the drive to help them, then it's okay to pass on it. It's okay to say, we're just not a good fit, But in the early parts of your career, I mean, you kind of do take everything because you're just trying to accumulate and learn and stuff. But I don't know why, but I do attract a lot of like young filmmakers. So I feel like I'll be like, okay, so let's slow down. Like, okay, so do you want to make the film or give your money away? And I sort of just fell into that a little. I don't know, do you guys go through that too?
Oh, yeah, but I think we all walk them through.
Yeah, I think every
filmmaking.
client's different, though. I mean, when you're working with experienced clients, it makes it a different, their understanding. When you have to hold somebody's hand and show them how it works and make decisions with them, it's a lot more work. And that's really what it comes down to. But I do think that on our side, we have to read the script and love it and be passionate about it, but we also have to judge the personalities of the people that we're going to possibly work with. And if you get on a phone call, a Zoom, or a meeting with them in person and you just walk away, it's like dating, okay? So, or making a best friend, a new friend. If they're not for you, they're not for you. And that's really the bottom line. And I say no to just, a lot of stuff because life is too short. And I think actors forget that it's okay to say no. If you read a script and you say, this isn't something that I'm comfortable with, this material, or I don't really enjoy, talking to this person. I don't think they understand, or I really don't want to shoot something every other weekend. I have to do other things in my life. Nobody's going to know. I always say to actors, I don't see the resume of all the things you turned down. I only see what you did. And so don't worry about saying no, because I love the word no. It's in my vocabulary. And, I'm used to saying it on a daily basis.
Charlotte?
Yeah, I mean, as a casting director working only in the indie space, basically, I get to work on people's first features and shorts, and definitely one of the advantages is, I mean, the hand-holding can come with an advantage of they're going to ask for advice a little bit more sometimes than very seasoned directors that you get like very little time with when you're jumping into a big production. And so take our feedback. I would say like one interesting thing I've noticed is, or thing that I try to reframe for new for new directors, is that there's only one person we're going to find for this part. There's only one actor out there who is it's going to come down to just the one. It's like, no, we're going to come down to like a handful of people that you'll really enjoy working with, and in the callbacks, my job is a job well done when I'm making it hard for you to choose between a couple actors. And I think that's also comforting for actors to know that like at the end of the day, like we're not looking for this like hyper specific thing that's going to fit into this box perfectly, but your interpretation of this character is going to be really exciting for us to bring to a director and kind of see with an array of options.
Wow, fantastic.
And
yeah.
Also to bring it into short films a little bit is when you have newer producers or directors, they don't necessarily know all the rules and guidelines. So we are, doing a lot of hand-holding, but because it's a short film, sometimes they think, oh, well, we can just do whatever because it's not a big production. But no, this is still a film. This is still a project. We're still doing what we can to make sure it's correct. So bringing them into the world of just because it's smaller doesn't mean you can just do whatever you want.
You still have to pay for travel days. Yes.
Exactly. All, per diem, all that stuff still exists.
Totally. I wanted to follow up on Kimberly's, what you said about those filmmakers who want to cast the Tom Cruise. When these directors and filmmakers come to you with these grandiose ideas for casting, is that a distraction? Is that a kind of clue into what you should be looking for? When that happens, where do you go from there?
Well, I mean, look, I'm all for being lofty, and I'm all for wanting, the best people ever, but they get sort of stuck in this celebrity-ish, like, I got to get this so I can maybe raise more money for this, and it's like, okay, but we have to be realistic. What do you have now? And let's work based on that. And then if you get some more money, you know what I mean? We can plan up, if you will. But I think it's the idea of like, why don't we just get the very best actors and make the very best film you can with what you have? And just trust in that and stop defaulting always to like, I've got to get a name, because I've done enough work in my career that I can look back and say, we gave Lizzie Moss one of her first jobs. I can look back and, with a number of people and say like, not that I run around, like, it doesn't matter to me. I mean, usually half the time I'm telling them, don't forget us little people. But it's the idea that like, just on those brinks, just before they pop, you know what I mean? And then they go on to do, great stuff. So it's just, we have to kind of put a little bit of realism in there. We're not trying to discourage. It's just the idea of like, let's work within the limits that we have, and let's just try to get the best people that we can for it. And don't think about the celebrity thing. That's obviously has an importance, but I think we're kind of moving away from that. I've seen this happen over the last decade. It's less about that so much, especially in the short film world. People are looking for quality, and they're looking for story, ultimately. And we want to get the best people that are going to be able to tell those stories. So,
I just had an experience, though, on a short film I just cast where the filmmaker said, this is who I want for my lead role. I seen him before and, didn't really think outside of the box of any other actor. And so I made an offer. The actor liked it, met with her, and did the film. Yeah. So we got really fortunate that she got the actor that she had been dreaming of. And I've had that happen before. But I do agree, you just have to navigate your client down different paths so that if there's disappointment or financially they can't afford or somebody's just way out of their realistic reality. Because what I have learned, and I'm sure all of you have learned, is that when a filmmaker who's not experienced comes your way and they see all these other films out there with all these stars in them, they think it's easy to get them. They have no comprehension that all these people have worked together under the CAA umbrella and they package it and whatnot. They don't understand, and it's not about that your product isn't as good as that other filmmaker. It's just you don't have the cachet, the caliber, the contacts, the money to pay these people. So that's where everybody here comes in. And that's our job to find, who's out there. I actually think due to the streamers like Netflix, Apple, Amazon, that there's more jobs for people out there today, because a project that at one point had access to actors that may not be available anymore because they're often doing these other things. So I think it opens the door, and I think anybody can get a lucky break at any moment. I've seen it happen where, we didn't get a name or an actor that wanted to do it or could cut a deal, and then I had, a bunch of people self-tape, or we looked at their reels, and there you go, they got the part. So, I'm been doing this for a long time, and I see it happen.
Fantastic. Yes,
also, we've had writers, write something in the script, a so-and-so type, and we can go for that person. And I've actually had experiences where we have brought that person in auditioned the person and then they didn't get the role. So the role is built for them and they didn't get the role. So tapering the reality is a very big aspect of what we do. And just because they're a big name, they might not be right for this role. And someone else could be better or take it somewhere that you weren't expecting. The writer didn't even think about because they were just focusing on, if we do this, we'll get the money. And it is an art, so you have to think about all of the aspects.
Yeah, it kind of is an all-encompassing role where you guys are navigating how the story is told, but also like how much money we can get to tell the story. It's a very interesting position that you guys are in. To move on just a little bit, how do first-time filmmakers get in contact with a casting director? If I'm looking to hire someone, where do I go? What are the resources to find the right casting director for me?
Stalking. I'm kidding.
No, don't.
Most of my jobs come from word of mouth. So they spoke with another director who's worked with me, and they reach out to me, or they have seen a short that I've cast or a feature I've cast, and reach out to me there. Festivals, and then the Casting Society also is a great resource to find our contact information, but also just to know which casting directors are working on what type of projects.
Yeah, and again, word of mouth, but put yourself out there and figure out what kinds of projects you want, and then do the research yourself. So if you see, different projects for writers, directors, producers, casting directors, see, if you love a project, see who worked on it and see what their genres are or what projects they work on, and say, oh, wow, I really love what they do. I feel like we could be a good match. And so do a lot of research and stalking, but more research, and really see who could be right for you to work with.
Yeah, I think that's before they come to us, then hopefully that's what you've been doing is, maybe going on IMDb and looking at, what Adrienne has cast, and like, oh, that's kind of in the genre or the style that I'm interested in. I think that's why most of us, we audition too, guys, right? I mean, people come to us and, we have a conversation about their vision of the project and whatever, and they may go with us or they may go with somebody else, But yeah, I think a lot of it is through word of mouth, and we're all really good about, like, if we can't do something or, well, for whatever reason, we'll be like, oh my God, you totally, let me throw you some emails of some great casting directors. And so I really love this community for that reason, because, we're not sort of like, it's mine, like, we're like, oh my God, who'd be awesome for this if I can't do it? So, yeah.
Well, somebody once said to me a long time ago on a project, they said, you're not getting that job because you're not part of that mafia. And that makes a lot of sense, that certain projects just go to certain types of casting directors. Obviously, I've cast so many films, and so people know my work. They come to me. I have a lot of repeat clients that recommend me to different people. I do dark films. I do horror. I do stories that are upsetting, family stories, dramas. I also do a lot of faith-based. I'm always surprised when I get a comedy, because I'm like, really? That's really, like, you didn't really do your research, because I don't do comedy, and I might not be, I'm happy to do comedy, and, but I might not be the best fit. Or, when somebody comes to me with, and I've had this happen with a huge, like, dark LGBT story. That's not who I am, and I know there are casting directors out there, that's their world. There's a couple casting directors that specialize in LGBTQ stories, and so I pass them along because I feel like they deserve that job. It's not my job, it's not my world, and so you do have to think in terms of that, like, is this a good fit for me? Because if it's not a good fit, then it ends up being torture for everybody involved, and, you're just not on the same page. And, I've been doing this for so long, just like Kimberly, and there's nothing I haven't seen. There's no, like, I've seen every fit people have had. I've seen nightmare situations. I've seen the most amazing, happy situations. But what I'm saying is that I need to enjoy my day every day. And so I want to make sure that the people that I'm surrounded with work-wise are going to be, on the same page and going to be enjoyable. I'm going to go back to something you said earlier with casting, and not everybody's your friend. I look at the job, sometimes I'm what's called a list maker, taskmaster, and that's all I'm doing. I'm setting them stuff, they're making decisions. My opinion is so not valid. They're going to make those decisions. And other times you're holding their hand, you're part of the team creatively. They want lengthy conversations. So you got to see where you're at with every client. And it doesn't mean that they don't value you as a casting director. It's just that's their style. That's how they work. And so you just have to go with the flow of what it is that they do.
Can you pass the comedies to me?
Yeah.
No.
I don't get them that much.
No,
but
because like you were saying,
Yeah.
we kind of get put like pigeonholed a little bit, I mean, I worked 10 years on a show which was all about terrorism. And all of a sudden I'm the terrorist casting director. And it was just like, what? And nobody ever comes to me with comedy, and I'm like, I'm freaking funny, man.
So I was just gonna follow up with that note on that's your genre.
But it's just it happened that way. That's all I'm
Yeah.
saying is we all kind of. I mean, you can make the choices, right? But I'm saying
Well, I worked for Dimension at one point, and you do these big horror films. And once you're in that horror world, you just keep getting these horror films.
That's what happened
and
to me.
so you just know the formula, and you know how to do them, and the clients, know your. I have cast horror films that people are like, oh my God, I love that horror film. Or, that's one of the greatest horror films out there. And so that's what it is. What I'm finding now in the industry is I like the dark stories that I've always done, the horror stories. I'm finding a lot of biopics. That's what people are doing. I just did one. I have another one shooting in July. But whether they're shorts or features, there are a lot of biopics out there. And then faith-based is absolutely huge. And I have dipped into that world with different organizations and groups. And so don't overlook anything in any way. But, again, if somebody comes to me with a comedy, I don't think I'm the right fit, but I'm happy to do it.
Just out of my own curiosity, in your office all day are people high-pitched screaming, auditioning for you in these horror situations?
I have surely, I'm sitting at home on my computer, but there are many horror films that I've cast where the actors do have to scream and run around and pretend they're dead, and I've seen that. Yeah.
Fantastic.
I've was in the vampire, werewolf, witch world for probably about 10 to 12 years. And yes, there's a lot of screaming. And my favorite is in the description, in the sides, it'll say, he's vampire running. And right, we're supposed to know obviously what that means. And so people in the audition will do a vampire run.
What is it?
Like a whoosh.
Can you show us?
Really, really
I know
fast.
that run. I know it. They run around the
yes.
audition room.
Exactly. Also, maybe CGI or something helps with that in editing, but they really get into it. And I've had, fake weapons pulled on me because that's part of the world. So yes, that happens a lot. So comedy sounds lovely also.
Fantastic. So since we're in front of a SAG-AFTRA audience, I want to just ask, and I'm sure there's filmmakers on really tight budgets that want to work with non-union actors, but the union has a lot of low-budget, micro-budget contracts. Is there a benefit to working on those contracts instead of using non-union actors? Yeah, sure.
I don't work on non-union projects. Mostly because it's also if a producer approaches me and we're thinking of doing it non-union, it's okay, it's time to learn how to make union films. Let this be your opportunity to learn how to make a project SAG. It's actually, I can help you. It's actually very easy. Here's a phone number. And I'm helping that producer learn something. Most of the times, because they're scared, they hear union and they're like, oh my God, we're gonna have to pay so much more and everything's gonna be restricted. And it's like, no, they're, like you said, different tiers of levels of contracts, and so there is a place for this film to be union, and it's time for you to learn, and let's make this a learning opportunity for this producer who will henceforth not be scared of making union films because they feel like they don't have the knowledge or they can't handle it. And yes, it's so limiting. If I were to work on a non-union project, I just that's so many actors that I love and who have worked so hard to be part of a union that I couldn't call in. Like, that would be so difficult for me and like double my workload, really.
Anybody else on working on
Yeah, I
this?
encourage everybody to do the SAG Ultra Low or the new media because it's frustrating if everybody has to be non-union. You're not going to get them what they want, especially when you met with them and they start naming actors that they love. And I'm like, union. And, and some do, some don't. I mean, again, I've been caught up. I don't mind if it's a teen film and it's non-union because we're going to get young people. But once they get to that next place, I don't want to deal with it, and I don't want to be told you're deferring salaries. I don't do that. I believe everybody who shows up on set deserves pay, but I also don't let them pay the $215 or $218, whatever it is. Now, I say if you want actors to show up, it has to be anywhere from $400 to $1,000 for the day who are SAG actors, or else they don't want to leave their day job.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a pretty sad state of affairs when, even with New York, theater, not the Broadway houses and stuff, when people would have to make a choice even like, do I do this off-Broadway show? I'm making more money on unemployment. I mean, it's really sad. No, it's really sad, but that's the truth. But yeah, the same thing. We do fight for those things too, guys. Just keep that in mind. Like, we'll be like, if we just bump that up a little bit, we can open it up more. And but understand that your unions are there to protect you. And when you take a non-union job, there's nobody that's your advocate. So these people can work you 14, 15 hours a day. They don't have to have crafty. They can break all those rules that the union works so hard to put in place to protect you. So it does a disservice when you do a non-union job. I acknowledge that they exist, but I think you have to really do your homework. I met with SAG-AFTRA a few years ago in the commercial division, pre-COVID actually, and we were going to do a town hall about encouraging people to join the unions, right? And because I think there was this misnomer of what the union does for them, and people were getting discouraged. And there were agents and managers telling people not to turn union because there was more work in the non-union world. And I was like, okay, well, how do we change it? If we got to say no, at some point you just have to say no, and take the time when you're about to become union to, as go to your orientation, to go to the meetings that they open up for you so you can understand what they're doing on behalf of you to protect you. I think that's the thing that people are like, what's the union doing for me? It's like, go talk to them. They'll listen. They'll tell you that you're not my union, so I have no skin in the game in that way, But you understand why unions are important. So, yay, SAG-AFTRA.
Yes,
I think people are truly just scared. They don't know, and it's just learn. Just take a minute, read online, whatever it might be, and just realize that it's safer, better. They're there for you. There's no reason not to do it.
Do you find when filmmakers move on to SAG-AFTRA contracted films, there's a kind of larger path for them once they've made the film, more places to submit, more things for distribution? Is there a better opportunity for filmmakers?
Well, every year Sundance writes an article about all the films at Sundance that didn't get distribution. So I think you just need a good product in the marketplace is number one. But I do think that it just elevates everybody because I say to the filmmaker, well, don't you want a relationship with these agencies and management companies? Because they're going to look at your IMDb, and then the next project you do, they're going to see that you worked with these established talents who, have a body of work. So I think that that's the difference between the union and the non-union. But one thing I'm going to say, so let's say any one of us are casting a smaller project that is a SAG Ultra Low budget, we'll call it, where you're allowed to cast union and non-union. So let's say there's a bunch of teens in it and we cast non-union 18-year-olds playing 16-year-olds. I tell my client, you treat them the same way as you're treating the union because SAG is going to look at them as future members and they have the right to call SAG and say, I was on a SAG set and this happened to me. And SAG still, I've seen SAG get behind people, so I make sure that the newbies, as we call them, feel that they're being treated the same, because there's nothing worse than showing up and, you know, somebody got a full sandwich and you got half a sandwich.
Thank you so much, everyone. Everyone, our casting director,
Thank you,
Charlotte
guys.
Arnoux,
Thank you very much.
Joanna
Stay
Davis,
cool.
Kimberly Graham, Adrienne Stern. Thank you so much.